All right, well, let's get started then. It's about 4 after. We might have some other folks joining us. They can catch up as they get in. We really appreciate you all coming to this public meeting to learn more about TAUNY. As Ruth mentioned, we did have a number of people who could not join us. So we're going to be recording the session, and then it will be available on YouTube, and then on social media afterwards if you want to go back and review it later. I'm Alan Hersker. I am the president of the board of directors of TAUNY, and I have some colleagues here joining us this morning. Ruth McWilliams is the vice president of the TAUNY board of directors. We have Jackie Sauter, who is the past president of the board and a current board member. Jill Bright is our executive director, and Shuka Wei is our director of communication. And you'll have an opportunity over the next 45 minutes to hear from all of them, all of us. Again, thank you for coming. And I think as you're going to see, TAUNY is an organization that literally could not exist without our volunteers. They're involved in every aspect of the work we do. And the volunteers, myself included among them, we're passionate about TAUNY's mission. We're connected to the people, places, and traditions of the North Country. And although I'm a little bit biased here, I think we're also just a generally good, fun bunch of people. So we really appreciate you all taking the time this morning to join us and to learn a little bit more about TAUNY. What we're going to be doing today is, we understand that there's a varying levels of familiarity with TAUNY, from the novice to the expert. So we're going to start off by showing a brief video that Shuka produced that overviews TAUNY's work. After that, we're going to have a short presentation that gives a little bit more detail about the varying ways to contribute to TAUNY. And the ways to do that. And as you'll see, we're really thinking of this as a continuum of commitment to TAUNY. And then we're going to have an opportunity for question and answers, and then we'll close out with ways, some of the next steps, what your next steps might be if you want to get more involved with the organization. So the question is, why are we here today? Why at this moment in TAUNY's history, why are we here making this public presentation? Why are we having this public meeting? It's been, I don't need to tell anybody this, it's been a tough 20 months for the world. And like a lot of organizations, TAUNY has curtailed its programming. We've shortened our hours of operations. We even had to close our doors for a time during the height of the pandemic. But as an organization, we took this opportunity to do a little bit of self-reflection, to look at where we've been, to look at where we're going, and to really assess who we are and what TAUNY does. And during this period of introspection, we developed a new strategic plan, which is a vision for the next 3 years of TAUNY as we reemerge and as we renew our commitment to our communities and traditions in the North Country. We took this time to really reinforce TAUNY's foundations, and now TAUNY is really positioned for our next big breakthrough. And we're here looking for people to be part of that. I mentioned earlier the continuum of commitment and how important volunteers are to TAUNY's operations. And as we take all of you through this presentation today, think about, please, where you might fit in on this continuum and what kind of commitment you might be willing to make to TAUNY. Is it an hour or two every couple months? Is it helping out with monthly programming? Is it regularly helping out with fundraising efforts? Or, is it holding an officer position? And as you'll see, all of those and more are going to be options that are available to you. So next up, we want to jump right in, and Shuka is going to share the overview of TAUNY that highlights our mission and our work.
Founded in 1986, TAUNY's mission is to explore, honor, and celebrate the diverse cultures, skills, and crafts of everyday life in New York's North Country. TAUNY staff travels the back roads of the North Country to document the people and places that make our region special so that we can share it with you. This is a place where cultural experiences and traditions are encountered, celebrated, and passed along to keep our community strong, welcoming, and connected. TAUNY's home is the TAUNY Center, located in downtown Canton. In the TAUNY Center, you can learn about the North Country through changing and permanent exhibits, concerts, demonstrations, workshops, talks, and in the North Country Folk Store, which sells the work of over 200 artisans and producers. The TAUNY Center is also a place where you can share personal, family, and community traditions with others. Visiting the TAUNY Center is just one way to experience what TAUNY has to offer. We take exhibits and programs on the road to small towns throughout the region. We produce publications, videos, and other digital content through our social media and website. We offer live, virtual events, and our archives are an ever-growing living record of the North Country, past and present. TAUNY is a community project made possible by the participation of many. We look forward to having you join us.
Thank you, Shika. That's great. So next up, we're going to turn this over to Ruth Williams, who's going to start off our presentation with a little bit of overview of the Board of Directors.
Thanks a lot, Alan. And Shika, I'll depend upon you to help me with the slides as we work through this, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so TAUNY's Board of Directors does steer the organization towards fulfilling the goals. All the directors do contribute what we call time, talents, and treasures in various ways. For example, as vice president, I do chair the Board Development Committee. And as an officer, I also serve on the executive committee, but I also assist with fundraising activities throughout the year, whether it's during the appeals or donating items to sell, raffle, or auction otherwise to help us support the work that TAUNY does. Directors do work with fellow directors to fulfill our leadership responsibilities by focusing on governance matters, and that includes setting the direction through our strategic plan, which includes the mission as well as the values. We also do provide oversight and raise funds, as I mentioned, but there's a lot more that does go on. So in terms of the mission, the plan states our mission and it highlights priorities. But right now we are recruiting great board members from across TAUNY's service region. And I'm not sure if you heard that in the video, but our service region does include the 14 counties north of the Mohawk River. Some people, because the headquarters is in Canton, some people think of TAUNY's region as smaller than it is, but we do serve a 14 county region. While we're recruiting directors to the board, we are keeping the mission in mind. And the video also did share the mission, which is to explore, honor, and celebrate the diverse cultures, skills, and crafts of everyday life in New York's North Country by bringing people together across the region and beyond. We also are seeking people who share these values. These values are very important to us, and we gave quite a bit of thought to them while working on the strategic plan. The values include professionalism, respect, integrity, excellence, commitment, and inclusion. We do value inclusion in everything we do, including the diversity of ideas that come from a diversity of people on the board and from diverse communities across the region. As we seek to fill vacant positions on the board, we are looking for people who are not only passionate about TAUNY and its mission, but are willing to step up and help us realize our strategic goals. And these 6 strategic goals are outlined in the plan along with associated activities to pursue. We do want to emphasize the importance of governance to the board's responsibilities, as well as succession planning for developing our leadership, not only at the board level, but at the staff level. Of course, we're also very focused on raising the funds that are needed to do TAUNY's work. We are looking at opportunities for people to volunteer and actively engage in TAUNY, which you're going to hear quite a bit more about today. We're also looking at ways to update our systems to support TAUNY's operations. And we need to, of course, take care of facilities, namely the TAUNY Center in Canton's historic district. So I do want to tell you a little bit more about the board of directors itself and how we operate. The board, as I mentioned, provides leadership on governance matters, some of which I've addressed and others will address. According to our bylaws, it does consist of a minimum of 4 directors to a maximum of 15. We serve 3-year terms and there are no term limits. The board meets at least 6 times a year. Our fiscal year begins January 1st, and we do hold our annual meeting in November, during which we will be electing directors and officers. Much of the work of the board does happen through what we call committees of the board. Those committees include the executive committee, which I mentioned I'm on, the audit and finance committee, which is actually chaired by our treasurer, and then the board development committee, which I also do chair. So if you are passionate about TAUNY's mission, if you want to help TAUNY adapt and thrive, and if you can see the big picture, then we'd love to explore opportunities with you to make a difference by being on the board. But if you're not ready to consider this level of commitment, then we hope you'll engage in other ways. And now I'm going to turn it over to Alan to talk a bit about opportunities to engage in what we call advisors to the board.
Great. Thanks very much, Ruth. I appreciate that overview. As Ruth mentioned, we recognize that not everybody has the time for the level of commitment required on the board of directors. But we really wanted to make TAUNY more accessible, for working people, for parents, and for others who may have lots of demands on their times. We wanted to open up opportunities for volunteers who might not want to focus on the big picture, like Ruth was talking about, but really who wanted to focus on one particular area or in their particular skill set and pursue their passions. The way we've done this is to create a level of involvement that we're calling advisors. The advisors would serve on committees of the corporation, which are committees that are focused on one area of need. Now, these committees and the members on them, they don't carry the full complement of responsibilities and duties of the board members themselves. The committees of the corporation, are chartered for a specific purpose. They can consist of both board of director members as well as non-directors. There are variable terms, lots of flexibility here. They are elected by the board. They meet as needed. Some committees are going to meet more often than others. Some actually may be cyclical, meeting frequently during a period of high activity, but then, maybe kind of a little bit less when business is slow. And the committees of the corporation will make action step recommendations to the board of directors and then work with the board of directors as those action steps are implemented. Currently, we have a facilities committee of the corporation. We have a fundraising committee of the corporation. And what we do is we expect to constitute other committees of the corporation as the talent emerges and as TAUNY's needs change. So committees or advisors to the board, a great way to explore TAUNY, a great way to get to know others and to kind of test the waters before making a greater commitment of your time, talent, and treasure to TAUNY and possibly joining the board of directors. The third level we want to talk to you about is that of the expert network. And I'm going to pass this over to Jill Bright, our executive director, who's going to walk you through the possibilities there.
Thank you, Alan. So over the years, I have been greatly assisted in my responsibilities as executive director of TAUNY by individuals across the North Country who agree to volunteer their specialized skills and knowledge to help me make informed decisions. It's really great for me to be able to pick up the phone and get help with a topic I'm trying to figure out. So right at the moment, within the expert network, examples of expertise include legal counsel, fundraising, advocacy, economic development, and even regional history. Ruth mentioned time, talent, and treasures earlier. Talent is really the focus of this category. The time commitment is minimal. It's agreeing to speak to me as needed. And although we hope members of the expert network will contribute financially, it is not a requirement of being an expert. Typically, I approach individuals with whom I already have a working relationship for the network. People who are known to me and I know and trust their knowledge. But I would love it if anyone out there with a professional background that is helpful to nonprofit management is inclined to approach me to get involved. So don't hesitate. And my contact is jill@tawny.org, and we'll follow up with that information later too. As you'll see on the list, I do have a list of priority needs right now that I would like to add to the expert network. That would include commercial insurance. Our insurance needs are rather complex because of all the different kinds of activities that we are involved in. Marketing, we are always looking for new and better ways to reach a larger audience and serve more people. And an archivist. As you heard earlier, we do have a research collection, and at the moment we have no dedicated staff to manage it. So I would really love to find a person who could assist TAUNY with our archival needs. That would be wonderful. So that's the expert network. This final category is kind of the miscellaneous everything else category. As Alan mentioned earlier, TAUNY would literally not be TAUNY without the dozens of volunteers over the years who've assisted us with the day-to-day operations of the work we do. And again, sometimes get involved in special short-term projects. Volunteer opportunities can range from helping with routine cleaning because you like to spend time in the TAUNY Center when it's open, to decoding the Department of Health manual to produce a safety checklist for volunteers working in our demonstration kitchen. That is an actual need right now. So if any of you think that sounds like a fun thing to do, please let me know. But there really are just a lot of different ways that you can get involved. People often assume when they see TAUNY's facility and the level of activity that we maintain that we are a well-funded organization. But the truth is that volunteers make this possible. For example, all of our exhibit installation for the past decade or so has been done by volunteers. Much of what you see in the folk store is possible because of a committed volunteer who helps us find new artists and does the store displays. And volunteers have driven the trucks that picked up the wreaths that we have sold every December for decades. So it's a hugely important part of our workforce in a way. Right now we have a few specific priority opportunities. We have a demonstration kitchen in the street level gallery in the TAUNY Center, as you saw in the video. We do a lot of food programs with guest cooks. It would be very helpful to have a volunteer come in after these programs to make sure that equipment and supplies are in the rightful place and to keep an eye on making sure that basic supplies are well stocked in the kitchen. Also related to the kitchen, the board has authorized me to explore the potential of a cafe in the TAUNY Center. So at this point, I'd like to put together a group of people to help me with initial research on that topic. If it turns out that the findings of this initial research are such that the board decides to go forward in a serious way with that, then that would probably move into the category of a committee of the corporation that would take it from there. But initially, we just need some volunteers to help do some research with me. And the final item on this list is the North Country Living Traditions Awards, which has been a signature activity of TAUNY since 1993. Every year we identify, document, and honor people, tradition bearers in the region who are keeping traditions alive here, and also special cultural landmarks in the North Country that are important community gathering spaces. I would really like to put together a group of people who would work with the TAUNY staff to help identify candidates for the award and possibly to assist in planning the annual awards program. So those are just a few current things I'm thinking about. But again, there's a lot of room for people to approach us and say, this is something I'd really like to do for and with you. And even if it's a project we're not thinking of doing right now, we are very much a yes organization. So if it's mission appropriate for us and we see that it really could happen, then we're very happy to have a volunteer chart our course towards something new.
Mhm. Great. Well, Jill, thank you so much. Thank you, Ruth. You know, we tried to be as comprehensive as possible with the opportunities to get involved with TAUNY. We know we raised some questions though, so we wanted to take a couple minutes to hear from you all. You know, what questions do you have? What would you like more information on? You know, how can we, you know, how can we provide the information you need to be able to kind of help you figure out how you want to contribute to TAUNY?
This is the point where you can unmute yourself and put out a question, or you can put it in the chat if you'd rather not speak up.
So perhaps, Alan, while people are considering what their questions are, as I've talked to some people who are interested in learning more about TAUNY, I have heard some questions, unless there's something in the pipeline waiting.
I was just wondering if you could repeat what you said. Some of the conditions were like being a part of the board.
Okay. Would you like me to go back to the slide, or do you want us just to talk about it?
And Ruth, I wonder if you know, we want to maybe expand Se-Wong's question to, you know, what are the, you know, we talked about time, talents, and treasures. What are the, you know, what are the responsibilities of board and advisor and expert?
Okay, that would be a good way to talk a bit more about the board, is using the time, talents, and treasures idea. So in terms of time, and I see we've got the slide up. In terms of time, we do have 6 official meetings, board meetings, full board meetings a year. Committees do function in between. Once the, for instance, Jackie, who's on here, helps steer us in the update of the strategic plan. And once that was done, the board development committee started meeting more frequently. So there is a commitment to actually participating in meetings, and each board member is actually assigned to at least one of the standing committees. So that is a commitment on time. In terms of talents, you know, we are using the strategic plan goals to guide us in reaching out to people who might be interested in being directors. So we, you know, for instance, with facilities, we do have the beautiful TAUNY Center facility. It would be very helpful to have people on the board of directors who actually perhaps have a background in construction or trades or that sort of thing. So we are using the goals of the strategic plan to guide us. Succession planning is an important goal for us. You know, one of the things we did learn through the pandemic, it was brought to our attention, just like most nonprofits, that you need to plan for the future, whether it be emergency planning or succession planning in a more thoughtful way. And so, you know, perhaps there's some people out there who have experience in the human resources arena that would be very helpful to have on the board. So we are using the strategic goals to help guide us in people we reach out to. But people who do serve on the board really do need to, remember the vision thing, really do need to be people who think about the big picture, who think about the future, who are willing to work over a time horizon towards longer term goals. And then in terms of treasures, board members contribute at what we call a level that is meaningful to them. There is an expectation that board members will contribute financially during the year, but it needs to be at a level that is meaningful to them. So it's not a set amount, but the reality is, I think it's something like 1/3 of our current operating budget is actually from financial contributions made by people. You know, changes are occurring in how nonprofits raise funds, the kinds of grant programs that are out there. And so we are expecting that we will probably have to increase the level of our operating budget that is supported by contributions. So from a time, talents, and treasures perspective, that's a bit of an overview. Do you have other more specific questions?
No, I think that's good. Thank you.
Okay.
And I might kind of piggyback on what Ruth was talking about here. When it comes to the advisors, the focus for that group is really, I think, on the time and on the talent. We are just, as an organization, starting to use the committees of the corporation. And as I mentioned, the level of time commitment for them is really going to depend on the nature of the work they're doing. Our facilities committee, for example, has met and I think is planning on meeting once every quarter once they kind of get into a cycle. With our fundraising committee of the corporation, again, as we start gearing things up, we expect that committee is going to be meeting more often, but eventually we'll kind of break down into probably subcommittees or even individuals working on specific initiatives. When it comes to the treasure part of the advisors group, I think it's important to remember that a third of TAUNY's operating budget comes from the donations of volunteers. And while we would want to encourage our advisors to contribute financially to TAUNY, there's not that kind of expectation that they do that there would be with the board of directors. So, and I know, Jill, if you want to talk a little bit about the level of commitment, time, and talent and treasures with your experts.
Well, as I said earlier, the expert network, it's really about the talent part more than anything else. And we're delighted if you also choose to make it more about time and treasure, but really it's an expertise commitment that you're making. And with the other volunteers, it really is a continuum, as we said earlier, and it varies a lot. I mean, the volunteer I'm referring to who works in the folk store literally works full time for us. But then we have, people who help with installations of exhibits. They come in a couple of times a year, maybe 3 times a year to do that. So, there is quite a range in terms of possibility here. I also would say in terms of thinking about board membership, another question that we get a lot that we wanted to address today is, do you have to live in Canton to participate on the board? And the answer to that is a resounding no. In fact, we're delighted to have people from Canton join our board, but because we serve the 14 northern counties of New York State, we really want representation from across the whole region. And related to that, we are really looking for a good representation of different communities, whether and whether that's distant geography or not. But because we want to include as many voices as possible and to make TAUNY's work meaningful to as many different kinds of people as possible, we're really interested in people stepping forward who might have special connections with particular communities that we are not yet reaching.
Right. And at the top of our meeting, Jackie was talking a little bit about Zooming. And I think one of the things that maybe the only good thing that the pandemic has given us is a greater familiarity with this technology, which really expands our ability to include people from all parts of the TAUNY region. We have made a commitment as a board. We're going to continue with virtual board meetings so that we can draw in people from the very large geographic region. So as Jill said, we're using this as an opportunity and the technological innovations to be able to expand our reach and our representation on the board.
So are there other questions by people who've joined us today other than the board members? Well, then I'm going to share one that I've heard when I've talked to people about potentially becoming a board director, but also from people who just come into the TAUNY Center. When in the world will you be having classes and events again at the TAUNY Center? Those are really fun events. our programs do go out across the region, but people do love to come into the TAUNY Center, and the holidays are coming up, and we'll be expanding what's available via the folk store. But so Jill, is there anything you could say about when classes and events might be more possible again?
Yeah, well, of course, that's going to depend on evolving circumstances regarding the pandemic. But we have actually returned to some degree of in-person programming. Over the summer, we were doing some programming outside. Right now, we are doing limited indoor programming that is geared towards small groups where we can keep people spaced out and not have packed things. One of the very favorite things that happens in the TAUNY Center, and it's definitely a favorite of most of our supporters, is the big open houses and receptions that we have when we pack the house and we get hundreds of people crammed in and we're eating and playing music. And, those things are wonderful. We will not be returning to those anytime soon, but you can expect that we will be in the coming months returning to a more regular schedule of smaller events in the building. And I do want to, before we close today, I do also want to go back to something Alan said in the beginning. We really are a fun bunch of people, and it is very fun to be involved with TAUNY, and we enjoy each other's company a lot. And that is at the, the board level, in relationship to the staff, in relationship to all the other kinds of volunteers we have. There's a good vibe at TAUNY, and it's something that people comment on all the time. We hear it from student interns who work with us. We hear it from people who do work with us in projects. It's just the truth. So I would really encourage you, if you see any potential to be more involved, jump in and do it. I don't think you'll regret it.
Well, and I guess I'd just like to say one thing. I agree. It is a fun organization to be part of, but the fun for me is in part also for learning. I'm a person that is really into lifelong learning. I am officially retired from, my career job at this point. This TAUNY absolutely has become a way for me to stay really engaged with people, to continue to learn, to explore new things. Actually, I don't think it's a secret, Jill, but actually you've got a bit of money for what's called a creative aging project, which I find is really an exciting potential, because we are living longer. And we've got to keep those so-called encore years really interesting, and a way to stay engaged, keep our minds engaged, keep our interests up, meet new people. So for me, part of the fun is, in fact, the ability to keep meeting people and learning along the way.
Yeah, and I would, I would add, my passion, my reason for involvement with TAUNY is I believe strongly in all of our responsibility to creating strong communities and to making our communities more vibrant and more engaged. And I get a lot of pleasure, in helping TAUNY and in the work that it does in our local area. So Jackie, I don't know, I don't want to put you on the spot, but why have you been involved in TAUNY for these many years?
Well, Ellen, you said the word, it's community. For me, TAUNY reflects the North Country in so many ways. What is it about this part of the world that is so special to us? And it's really, I think, the fact that we get to know each other. Most of us live in small towns. We care about our main streets. We care about what's happening in our parks. We care about the kids in schools. And because we live in small communities, we have the power to make those communities better. And for me, TAUNY is just a reflection of that, because it represents not only all the little places we live in the Adirondacks or along the St. Lawrence or the St. Lawrence Valley, but about that greater sense of community in the North Country. And so I would just encourage anyone who wants to make a difference that being involved with this organization is just a great way to do it. I've been involved on the TAUNY board for forever. I've loved every moment of it, but even though, what do I want to say? Yeah, even though I'm no longer president by choice, because I'd done that long enough, I wanted to stay involved with the organization because I believe in its mission. And this is, I think, a really point of opportunity both for the organization and for people who live here, who care about our communities, because we are really looking towards the future rather than towards the past. And we need everybody to come together and help us move both the organization and our communities and the people who live here forward. So if you're listening to this live event or the video event later, or recorded event later, as Jill said, jump in because you won't regret it. I certainly never have.
That's great. Jackie, thank you. That's so much.
So I just saw a question pop up from Deborah, I think. So what are the next steps?
Yeah, thank you, Deborah, for bringing that up. I wanted to see if there were any more questions. But yeah, so what's up next? So I think for those of you who are present, physically present here now, we're going to reach out to all of you to follow up, see where you're at, and whether this is a good time for you to become involved. Another thing that we would ask you is, please, when you get the link to this, please send this to your friends. If you know people who are interested in the kinds of things that TAUNY does, please help us do outreach. We rely on our networks and to get the word out, and we hope that you'll help do recruiting for us. So yeah, so I guess Deborah, in direct answer to your question, we'll be in touch, and thank you. So.
But I do want to emphasize, Alan, that we are at an important moment in the board's year, in that we do have our annual meeting coming up in November. So an important next step that I'm keeping track of as being chair of the Board Development Committee is the election of officers and the election of new directors. And so there is a time horizon that we're working with right now, which is aiming towards, expanding the board, the number of directors on the board by our January 1st annual, when our annual meeting starts on January 1st. But we're also, we just did constitute that the facilities committee, and we are looking at actually officially constituting the fundraising committee. So there are some specifics right now in the pipeline that we need to consider. So there's lots, from just following up with each of you to sharing this good information with others, but there is a timeline that we are working with as well.
And I just want to reemphasize a point that's been made a couple of times. Thanks to everyone who's taken the time to watch this today and for your interest in TAUNY, but you've got friends. And if you know people who care about the work that TAUNY does, or maybe, we're thrilled to come to an exhibit or an opening in the back in the recent past, or watched a video online, who care about what TAUNY does, tell them about us. Tell them that there are opportunities to be involved, and you can share the video or just talk to your friends and tell them to get in touch with Jill or Alan or Ruth or me, and we can talk more about ways that you can help make a difference. Thanks.
Thank you all. If there's no other questions, I will let everybody go about their Saturday. It's stopped raining in Oxbow, so hopefully for the rest of you as well. I won't say goodbye. I will say we'll talk to you all later and soon. And again, as Jackie mentioned, for those of you who joined us virtually after with the recording of this, please do feel free to reach out to us. We would love to have you get more involved with TAUNY. So thank you all.
Everyone.
Talk to you later. Have a great
Bye.
Saturday.